Name something that gets passed around.
A joint.
A joint?
Now, streaming live on the Marijuana Agenda.
Oh, really? What are you people? On dope?
It's time for Toker Talk Radio.
Hey, this is great, man.
The voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Marijuana is listed as a Schedule 1 drug. That is absurd.
Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ. That's 650-534-2565.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
Hey, man. Am I driving okay?
Toker Talk Radio is your chance to make your voice heard in the Marijuana Nation.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
Send that message with clarity that good people don't smoke marijuana.
Now let's get to Toking and Talking with your host, Russ Belville.
Hey, welcome everybody. Great to be back here in beautiful legal Portland, Oregon. Back from Anchorage, Alaska, where on Sunday and Monday, they had like Portland winter weather. It was like 50 degrees and windy and cold and rainy and felt like home. Meanwhile, back here in Portland, they were having like sunny and 90 degrees. It was crazy weather here. And it's beautiful today, still sunny outside. And for those of you who've been following the antics of the 4 hot, naked, underage chicks here at Delta 9 House, our chickens, they're now outdoors. It's warm enough that they're all outdoors. They got their own coop. They got their own little chicken run. I'm turning into a gentleman farmer, I guess. Coming up on this hour in Toker Talk Radio, we got to talk about Nevada breaking an Oregon record. We'll tell you what that record is. We also have to call the wambulance. Yeah, time to call the wambulance for the mayor of Boston, Marty Walsh. Oh, he's so upset. Oh, poor little baby. Poor little baby. We'll tell you all about why when we get to our second block. And then in our third block, oh my goodness, we have some reefer madness to debunk for you today. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one. Celebrating the ignominious anniversary of the birth of Harry J. Anslinger last Saturday. Tell you all about that coming up in the last segment. Now, as we introduce this segment, a couple of things off the top of my head. Number one, from the it doesn't matter who you vote for, they're both the same files. You heard that this Sheriff David Clark was being floated as Secretary of Homeland Security. If you don't know who this guy is, he's like the Black Joe Arpaio. You know, Sheriff Joe down there in Phoenix. So he's out of Milwaukee, and he's kind of controversial, kind of known as a black Republican tough on crime sheriff who's anti-Black Lives Matter. That's kind of interesting. And he's anti-sanctuary cities, you know, with the whole immigration thing. He'd have crackdowns on that, you know. So he's been floated as a possible head of the Department of Homeland Security. And so the latest on this is that there's some charges that he plagiarized some of his works that he might have copied and pasted. He might have plagiarized from somebody. And the tweet that I saw that came across was that now Sheriff Clark was considering withdrawing his name and might not be the Secretary of Homeland Security. And I'm thinking, for plagiarism, right? Like, that's what gets this guy kicked out. not that he thinks that Black Lives Matter. Literally, this guy said that Black Lives Matter would join with ISIS to take down America. That wasn't enough. No, he's fine for that, right? Jeez. But no, don't copy and paste something from somebody else. Now, I'm not making light of plagiarism. Plagiarism's a serious thing. I'm against it, right? But come on. There's like, on the list of things that are wrong with this guy, it's like on page 17. Jiminy Christmas. Another thing I wanted to bring up. What is it with people leaving their weed away in places, giving their weed away? I mean, I'm all for giving weed away, but have you seen these latest stories? Okay, so the first one was a story came out of Redding, California, at a Winco Foods, big old warehouse shopping center, right? And it's a pile of weed dumped in the parking lot, like in a parking space big enough. You know, I'm looking at that pile of weed in the picture and I'm saying, Well, that's a couple pounds of weed, at least. Now, it looks like trims and sticks and all that kind of stuff, but still, large pile of pot just sitting out there in the Winco parking lot. This woman, her name's Erin Ryan. She snapped a photo, posted it on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and Facebook, I guess. And she's gone viral now. The photo's gone viral because there's this picture of this cop standing there guarding the pile of weed that was dumped in the Winco parking lot. And then there's another story. This one's coming out of Minnesota. Maplewood Police in Minnesota. A dude donated clothes to like one of these, Goodwill type of things. Once Upon a Child was the place. And they go through this bag of clothes and they discovered a large Ziploc bag containing 60 small bindles, each carrying about 2 grams of pot. So 60 little 2-gram plastic baggies of weed that this guy gave away with, inadvertently left with his clothes that he gave to the clothing place. And there was another story. It was like out of Washington State. This was a while ago, a few months ago. But there was a guy that had donated, a cooler? And in the cooler, there was a bunch of weed, right? Remember, folks, only users lose drugs. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
Looking for the 420 friendliest way to visit beautiful legal Potland, Oregon?
I'm Lori Duckworth, inviting you to come stay with us at Delta 9 House and Studios.
You get your own private room with queen bed and access to our high-speed Wi-Fi, premium entertainment system, and more.
We'll even cook you breakfast. Look us up on Facebook at Delta 9 House.
That's facebook.com/Delta9House. Delta 9 House is booked through Airbnb.com. City of Portland permit number 17-159855.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
The Marijuana Agenda. Kevin Sabet's boogeyman since 2012.
You have offended my family, and you have offended Shaolin Temple.
Yes, might have gotten away with it, too. If it wasn't for these blasted kids and their dogs.
I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 4 weeks for our Government at Work, the latest in cannabis reform at the local, state, federal, and international level. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
Hello, Mr. Man. Hi. I'm working. I'm sorry. No food till this is done. It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ.
Welcome back, everybody. 9 after the hour here on a gorgeous day in beautiful legal Potland, Oregon. In addition to the chicken coop that we got, we've also got our fine garden growing. We've got peppers. We're growing some peppers. We're growing some tomatoes. We're growing some beans. Growing some cannabis. Got a lot of stuff in our garden, and that's taking shape, and it's really cool to have that happening as well as the weather gets good. Farm fresh eggs, farm fresh peppers, farm fresh veggies, farm fresh weed. And if you want to have a little bit of that, you want to come visit me here at Delta 9 House and Studios. You've heard the promotion, but check it out online at delta9house.com. That's our Facebook page. You can also book the rooms directly by going to indica.delta9.house or sativa.delta9.house. And the summer weekends are going to fill up real quick. You want to make sure you book them as soon as you can. We are still a perfect 100% 5-star rated Airbnb. Everybody has rave reviews about their stays here at Delta 9 House, and we hope you can join us sometime. I'll even cook you waffles. I cooked some waffles this morning. They were delicious. All right, let's get to some of the marijuana news that's going on. And here in the state of Oregon, we're finding our records continue to get broken. Doggone it. When it comes to marijuana, we're losing our status here in the state of Oregon. I will say the state of Oregon still maintains the lowest price in the nation for marijuana, both black market and legit market. Lowest price in the nation for marijuana, bar none. Absolutely. Especially coming back from Alaska. Oh my God. If you saw Toker Talk Radio yesterday, and if you missed it, by the way, it's up on YouTube, on our Marijuana Agenda channel. You can also get it at mjagenda.com for the audio. Speaking with Liz Doobie and Johnny Gray yesterday, and they were telling me how weed in Alaska is going for like $23 a gram and higher, $30 a gram and such. They're talking about how shatter and concentrates are going for $80 to $90 a gram. Now, everything's more expensive in Alaska, granted, but this was like way beyond the pale. So there is a huge market opportunity in Alaska for someone who can take that on. And if you're interested in some of the vagaries, the ins and outs of what's going on in Alaska, it's kind of fascinating. Like, number one thing I learned is they don't have a Department of Agriculture, which, if you think about it, makes sense, right? What do you need a Department of Ag for in Alaska unless you're farming snow? And number two, they have no commercial medical program, right? And it's weird to me because Alaska and Oregon are quite similar in that Alaska and Oregon both decrimmed in the early 70s, Oregon 73, Alaska 1975 through the Raven decision. That was a Supreme Court decision in Alaska that ruled that the privacy protections in the Alaska Constitution are so strong, they trump the state's need to bug you if you've got less than a quarter a pound or fewer than 25 plants in your home. That's been the case in Alaska since 75, folks. I mean, they've legalized and all, but since 1975, if you had your own home marijuana garden and kept your weed at home, nobody could do shit about it. It was still illegal. Get caught outside the home, there's a problem. Still illegal that if they had another reason to come in the home and found that, it could be a problem. Like if there's a domestic violence call or a fire or something, they could still bust you for it. But the weed itself was not a big enough concern to trump your privacy rights at home in Alaska. So Oregon and Alaska both decrim around in the early 70s. Oregon and Alaska both passed medical marijuana in 1998, and Oregon and Alaska both passed legalization in 2014. But Alaska has been just so far behind. They've not had a medical system. Their law, they never set up a caregiver system or a third-party grower system or a dispensary system. Really, their medical marijuana was, oh, you're sick? Okay, grow yourself some plants and we'll leave you alone. Well, what if I can't grow plants? Well, there you go, whatever, right? So Alaska's been way behind, and Oregon and Alaska both legalized in 2014. We went from legalizing in November of 2014 to having our first recreational sales in October of 2015. So it took us 11 months to go from the vote to a legal purchase, recreational purchase. They're just now barely getting their legal sales off the ground. And the people I met, I was MC of their panels there, their educational panels in Alaska. And I met the guys that run the place in Fairbanks, Pakalolo Supply Company. And they were talking about how they're not looking at expanding. They just want to be able to have enough product to stay open. Like they're like saying they would open from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. 3 days a week. That's all they could open up to keep it open. They literally have like a light outside their place, red light, green light, as to whether or not they'd be open 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, and talked about how they'd have people camped out waiting in line to get in at 3 a.m. So 12 hours before they open, waiting in line. Now, granted, in the summertime in Fairbanks, the sun is out all the time, but this was back in the winter, so it's dark all the time, and the temperature's 40 below zero. People are waiting in 40 below zero to get in for 3 hours worth of sales. So Alaska's been way, way behind, right? But now we're finding other states that are coming online legally are starting to lap Oregon. The first one was California, because one of the records I was really proud of about Oregon is we had the greatest support in passing a statewide marijuana legalization initiative at 56.11%. Well, California beat us in 2016. They passed it with like 57%, something like that. I was like, well, we no longer have the greatest support record, although we can say we have the greatest support in a midterm election. Had we run that in 2016, we might have broken 60, right? So we lost that record. Well, now, according to this piece in the Daily Beast, Nevada is going to break our record of 11 months from vote to first legal sale, because on July 1st is when the legal sales will begin in Nevada. Now, that means they're going to go 8 months legal sales. They go from November to July, November vote in 2016 to July 1st, 2017 sales. However, I think there's a technicality. I think there should be an asterisk on this, because there's no way Nevada could have pulled this off without the guidance from Oregon. And here's why. In the state of Oregon, we passed our legalization, Measure 91, 56.11%. And in that, in passing that, we had the legalization take effect on July 1st. That was the Burnside Burn we put together. July 1st, 2015, you could possess, you could grow, but you couldn't buy anywhere or sell anywhere. Until the next year, they were thinking the recreational licenses, they might get around to them by October 2016. So we were going to look at a possible 15 months where we were legal to possess and grow, but not legal to buy anywhere. And the oddest thing happened. This senator from Eastern Oregon, who was against legalization and who fought to get this, what we call the West Idaho Compromise, he fought so that the eastern counties could ban pot businesses without a vote. That guy, Ted Ferrioli, senator from Eastern Oregon, brought up the point that, wait a minute, if we legalize in July 1st, and there's 15 months where they got nowhere to buy from, they're either going to buy from the black market, or they're going to cross the river and go to Vancouver, Washington and buy legal weed there, or they're going to game the medical system somehow and get weed from there. So Ferrioli said, look, we got these regulated medical marijuana dispensaries. Why don't we just let the recreational people shop there? And we were like, yeah, great. That'll be fantastic. So we did that, and that's how we got that record of going from vote to 11 months. Well, now Nevada is doing the same thing. Their July 1st thing isn't their new recreational sellers. It's another deal. I think this is another deal where they're allowed to sell out of the medical shops, or the medical shops are getting recreational, are moving into the recreational market. Had Oregon not moved forward with that, I don't think they'd have jumped ahead like they're jumping ahead. Although it's interesting to watch what's going on in Nevada, because they, with their medical dispensaries in 2013, passed it with reciprocity provision. So Nevada's medical marijuana dispensaries could accept any card holder from any state. And this has kind of primed the pump, so to speak, so that they already are ready for a recreational turnover. They've already dealt with dealing with lots of customers and having to keep the shelves stocked and so forth. So it's going to be easier for them to move on into this new recreational market now that they have the licensing to do so. But Nevada, unlike Oregon, has done this mostly with an eye toward money and very little consideration toward patients or consumers. Because, of course, the 2013 law that brought in their dispensaries took out their ability to home grow. Nevada patients had that law since, I think, 2000 was the Nevada law, had been able to cultivate their own cannabis plants or have a caregiver do it for them. But once the dispensaries came into existence, there now became a 25-mile halo rule around those medical marijuana dispensaries. People that were currently growing could keep growing.
You don't scare me. I got chunks of guys like you in my stool.
We'll have to go on about that after the break because it is 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone, and according to our strict union mandate, we must take a safety briefing. So I hope you're safe out there. We'll be right back.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
It's time for Cannabis Facts about Alzheimer's from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A new Florida study in the journal Molecular and Cellular Neuroscience found that cannabis promotes the growth of healthy new brain tissue. It can slow the effects of Alzheimer's and may in fact be able to halt it entirely. A long-term study by Ohio State University's Professor Gary Wenk concludes that people who regularly use marijuana get Alzheimer's at a much lower rate than others. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
I'm Russ Belville with the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 2 weeks for the Marijuana Policy Insider with Marijuana Policy Project. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
Jag heter David, p.k.a. Dirtball. Vi ska röka hela tiden, alla år.
It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the Marijuana Nation. Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're live here on Toker Talk Radio. Checking out the chat room where Jackie is asking, are there archives through TuneIn Radio? Not yet. No. So here's the deal. I've moved to a new platform. It's called Libsyn, and it's awesome in that it publishes to everything, right? It goes to iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play Music, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, SoundCloud. Where else? Oh, and the webpage itself. So it takes care of everything for me. The downside is it charges me storage space. And the platform I'm on has enough storage space per month for me to put the first hour up online. But if I put the second hour up online, it's going to cost me more money. So as I build back up and get more sponsors and get all that stuff running, then yes, in the future, we will have that whole VIP thing and we'll have all the content you can download and all that fun stuff. But I got to make it financially possible first. So stay tuned and keep on token. Now, you can get this whole 2 hours on the YouTube replay. So if you go to mjagenda.com and click through to the MJ Agenda YouTube page, then yeah, you can do this whole 2 hours. It's all up there because YouTube doesn't charge me any money. All right. question was, is program available live on TuneIn? No, we're only live on YouTube at this point. Not live on TuneIn, not live on iHeart, any of those, just podcast on those. Only live place you get us right now is on YouTube. For now. Again, as more money comes in and we're possibly even able to add staff, then yes, we will do those kind of things. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it. And keep telling more and more people to check out mjagenda.com and we can keep building this. All right, let me get back to what I was talking about, I should say. The Nevada thing, where they're going to have legal recreational sales, adult use sales on July 1st. Just a few weeks away. And that means they're going to set the record of going from the legalization vote to first legal sales in 8 months. And that's great. But again, there's a lot of problems with the legalization in Nevada. First of which is this halo rule, right? To me, it ain't legalization unless I can possess, grow, and buy weed. I want to be able to have the weed that I smoke. I want to be able to grow some weed. And then if I can't, I want to be able to buy it. I can't do those three things. It's not done yet. Well, it's never done until it's completely legal, but you know what I'm saying? So Nevada and Washington State, in my mind, don't fully have legalization yet. Washington State doesn't allow any home grow. Nevada, in effect, won't be allowing any home grow. Their rule is if you live within 25 miles of a pot shop, can't home grow. Well, Nevada, where is there to live? Las Vegas, Reno, Carson City, Lake Tahoe, Winnemucca, right? There's just a few places to live in Nevada. And if you're anywhere near an urban center, if there's a place to get groceries, there's probably going to be a pot shop. And then you won't be able to buy. And this isn't just, me pulling numbers out of the department of my ass. In Arizona, same kind of rule with medical, 25-mile rule. 97% of the population lives within these 25-mile halos. So yeah, there might be some guy out in a bunker in the middle of Area 51 out there somewhere that can grow his own weed in Nevada, but not anybody else. So to me, those are severe problems with legalization, because to me, the problem of this, and it's not because it's the man's taking our business, right? I don't give a damn who gets rich in legalizing marijuana. I don't care. The money part's not interesting to me. The interesting part of this to me is stopping the punishment of people over a plant. And so that's got to include cultivating it. We got to stop punishing people for cultivating it as well as selling it or using it. So in Nevada, where you're going to maintain these penalties, severe penalties for people who cultivate marijuana, and then allow others to cultivate it and sell it to them, that's even worse. That's even worse than the busting everybody who grows. Now you've basically set up a regulatory capture. You've set up a market that's dependent on these growers. Keith Stroup said it best so many years ago that home grow is the only check we have on corporations and governments overtaxing or selling us terrible weed, whatever, or overcharging, overpricing it. Where do we have the lowest marijuana prices in the nation? State of Oregon. Why? We have a whole bunch of home grow here. And home grow has been enshrined throughout our medical program for years. And that competition is what keeps the price low. It's also a check on overregulation. You begin overregulating the product to the point where it gets more expensive or too much of a problem for people to have to deal with, then they'll just go back to doing things the underground market way. This Nevada program also features the nation's, of all the legalized states, the nation's only criminal public toking penalties. right? Like they make a big deal of the fact that, in Colorado, Washington State, Oregon, California, all these states that have passed legalization still ban public toking. And there's still a big hue and cry over what is public and can there be pot lounges and all of that. But the penalties they have are civil. You can get like a $100 ticket, $200 ticket, whatever it might be. Not Nevada. Nevada, it's a $600 no arrest criminal misdemeanor that escalates to the point where I think fourth strike, it actually becomes arrestable and you can serve jail time for it. For public toking. Now, you understand why they're doing that. It's the whole gaming industry not wanting the smell of marijuana wafting over the Las Vegas Strip. And they're going to do the same thing when it comes to the zoning, too. They're going to zone it so there won't be pot shops right there on the Strip. You'll be going off a few blocks to go get your weed. Because they don't see legalization like we see it. We see legalization as, finally, we've escaped our bondage. Finally, we are equals with our fellow beer drinkers. No, that ain't it. They don't see it that way at all. They just see it as, okay, fine, we'll stop busting you. But we don't want to see you. Stay in your closets, you stinky hippies with your patchouli smell and your pot odor. And that's what it's bigotry, really. It's just cultural bigotry. It's a method of enshrining their culture, their alcohol culture, their pill culture as the superior culture. It's a means of keeping natural healing and natural practitioners down. You ever notice that the drugs that are legal in this country are the ones white people can profit from, right? The drugs that grow in the places where the brown people control, the cocaine and the heroin and the marijuana, place that come from a little farther south, if you get my drift, those are a problem. But all these synthetic chemicals you can manufacture, that a pharmaceutical company with a board of directors that's largely white men, hell, yeah, that's perfectly legal. That's perfectly okay. You saw it today in Trump's budget requests. I want to shift gears a little bit. Because I've been saying since Trump's election, I've been like the guy in Game of Thrones, right? Winter is coming. Winter is coming. And I've had people in my articles that I've written online, on my shows, in my chat rooms. Russ, you're an alarmist. You're such an alarmist. Nothing's happened yet. They're just saying shit. Nothing's really been doing. Watch what they do. It's not, it's just, the sky is falling. You're Chicken Little. And drip by drip by drip, I keep getting proven right. And the latest thing I'm proven right on is Trump's budget request. Requesting more money for the ONDCP and the DEA and the high-intensity drug trafficking areas and the drug-free communities grants. Pledging a 56% to 44% budget balanced toward law enforcement and what we call supply reduction, and 44% toward what we call demand reduction, treatment and prevention. Now, they'll always tout how, we're adding more money for prevention. We're adding more money for drug treatment centers, which is usually true. They're adding more money for that. But they're adding more money for everything, and much more money in proportion being added to law enforcement. This high-intensity drug trafficking agency, that's the one, like the Rocky Mountain one that always comes out with that legalization in Colorado has caused kids to go to emergency rooms and dropouts to happen and more wrecks on the freeway. And they're the ones that are always hyping the worst phantom statistics they can put together. Look, there was marijuana there and people died. Therefore, marijuana caused it. No, that's not quite the way the stats work, but okay. Those guys are going to get more money. And then the drug-free communities grants, those were the kind of grants that Kevin Sabet got paid from when he came to Oregon trying to fight Oregon marijuana legalization, his little education tour that I had to do all the Freedom of Information Act requests, open records requests here in Oregon. Found out he got paid $3,000 a stop and he was scheduled for 13 stops, $39,000 he would have made from these drug-free community grants, largely, that are granted down to the states and the counties. They're usually the Multnomah County Anti-Drug Force or the Malheur County Drug Prevention Group or whatever, and they can spend these educational funds that are really largely propaganda, anti-drug propaganda, not rooted in science or evidence from the states that have legalized or had medical marijuana. Those guys are getting more money too. In fact, the high-intensity drug trafficking areas and the drug-free communities grants got the highest requested funding ever. Trump's going to fund those. This is his request. Congress has to approve it. You know, the all-Republican Congress that's in his back pocket. He has requested more for those two agencies, those two parts of the budget, than any president before. The two parts of the drug war budget that have the most impact on fighting against marijuana legalization initiatives. The two big propaganda arms to put out negative information about marijuana are getting the biggest budget funding request ever. I'm just saying, don't tell me I'm an alarmist. More drug war is coming, folks.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
This is Cannabis Facts from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org, supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. In 1937, the second most prescribed medicine, marijuana, was banned. It wasn't about marijuana. The paper, oil, and chemical industries lobbied to end hemp farming. No longer labor-intensive, an acre of hemp produced more quality paper than 4 acres of trees. Plastics and fibers could be produced from a plant. Hemp can even produce 10 times the energy of today's ethanol. As marijuana prohibition ends, many states now allow farmers to again grow hemp. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to process America's hemp crop at hempinc.com.
The Marijuana Agenda. Kevin Sabet's boogeyman since 2012.
You have offended my family, and you have offended Shaolin Temple.
Yes, might have gotten away with it, too. If it wasn't for these blasted kids and their dogs.
I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 4 weeks for the Northwest Cannabis Chronicle from the Marijuana Business Association. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
I have a package here for Radical Rick. Is there a Radical Rick here? How about a Rick Russ? Any Rick Russ? Somebody named Freddie Barack has sent him a package. Anybody? What is that? Sounds like a skunk. It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ.
All right, couple other things on my mind here in the news world to get to. I saw a tweet come across that the CBS News put out. For the second time this year, a coroner's office in Ohio ran out of
marijuana is an addictive drug which produces in its users
insanity, the flux capacitor here.
Death. Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind. If the hideous monster Frankenstein came face-to-face with the monster of marijuana, he dropped dead of fright.
You know, It's not easy trying to debunk 80 years of anti-marijuana propaganda in a 1-hour podcast, but let's try. It's time for the Marijuana Agenda's Reefer Madness Debunked.
All right, I forgot that I was going to get into this Reefer Madness segment here because I spent the weekend attacking the legacy of Harry J. Anslinger. Those of you who don't know, Harry J. Anslinger was a former prohibition cop back during the alcohol prohibition days and worked his way up the bureaucracy to become quite important in that regard during the 13 years of alcohol prohibition. And after alcohol prohibition ended in 1933, that bureau, those cops, including Harry Anslinger, didn't have anything to do. Alcohol was then legal. So Anslinger and his buddies helped to promote the creation of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Now, from 1911 all the way through 1937, in addition to alcohol being prohibited in 1920, 1933, but from 1911 through 1937, the states were prohibiting cannabis. They calling it marijuana to do so, starting with Massachusetts in 1911, California in 1913, New York 1914, leading all the way up to 1937, when by the time 1937 rolls around, all 48 states had already made marijuana illegal. Well, Harry J. Anslinger was the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, and he knew that if he could get people hyped up on this threat of marijuana, that would be job security. Federal Bureau of Narcotics would have something to do. And it's remarkable when you look at it from the perspective of, rating evil geniuses, if you will, that Harry J. Anslinger held that post from 1937 to 1962. From FDR to JFK, 25 years, a quarter century, the first quarter century of our drug policies set by Harry Anslinger, particularly our marijuana policies. By the way, the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, its 80th anniversary is August 2nd. So we'll do something special on that show. And at the end of his career, Anslinger, his crowning achievement was the adoption by the United Nations and most of the countries in it of the 1961 Single Convention Treaty on Narcotic Drugs. This is the worldwide treaty that makes cannabis and most other drugs that we consider illegal drugs. This is the worldwide treaty that makes them illegal and makes it so the countries that are a part of this treaty have to make it illegal. So in remembrance of Harry J. Anslinger and his contribution to Reefer Madness, this weekend I created a Twitter account called @Anslinger's Ghost. And what inspired me, I was actually looking to satirize this group. There's a real group out there called Parents Opposed to Pot. And their website is poppot.org. Okay, think about that for a second. Parents Opposed to Pot. And their website is poppot.org. So doesn't that make it Parents Opposed to Pot? Or maybe it's Parents Opposed to Pot, Parents Opposed to Truth. But whatever, Pot. I was just going to satirize these guys because some of the stuff they were saying on their website sounded so much like Harry Anslinger that I started looking up Harry Anslinger quotes to match to what they were saying. And then as I was doing it, this was Saturday, as I was doing it, I'm like, wait a minute. Isn't today Harry Anslinger's birthday? And sure enough, it was. So I spent the weekend going through this Parents Opposed to Pot website. And you really have to read through a few of their pages to realize that it's not something out of The Onion, right? It reads as if it's some sort of like satirical site, but no, this is the real deal, folks. It's an anti-marijuana legalization advocacy group, and it's got the backing of people like Julie Shower. You remember her? She's that anti-pot millionaire out there in Pennsylvania, donated a bunch of money, 7 figures to Project Sam in California. So let me give you some of the quotes. This is amazing. It's just amazing stuff, right? This is from the Pop Pot site. Reefer madness is not an invention. A subset of the population develops psychosis and schizophrenia from using marijuana. No one has figured out who it is and or what the genetic markers might be. Estimates vary, but those susceptible to pot psychosis range from 3% with the marijuana of the 70s. Now, who has this marijuana of the 70s anymore? Right? Why even mention that? I've been saving this in a bag since 1972. Let's smoke a little of it. Anyway, let me continue. To 25% of the population with the marijuana of today. That's right. According to Pot, 1 out of 4 pot smokers today will suffer schizophrenia or psychosis. 1 out of 4. With dabbing, edibles, and other forms used today, that rate may go up to 50%. 50%, folks. Pot, parents opposed to pot, are trying to tell people half of the people who dab will go psychotic. And they conclude by saying, how do we know who can go mad from using marijuana? The truth is, we don't know until it happens. Jeez. Okay, so anybody smoking pot, any moment, 1 out of 4 of them smoking pot, 1 out of 2 of them smoking dabs, just like that could go psychotic. Harry J. Anslinger was a bit more florid in his description. His quote, marijuana is a shortcut to the insane asylum. Smoke marijuana cigarettes for a month, and what was once your brain will be nothing but a storehouse of horrid specters. Hashish makes a murderer who kills for the love of killing out of the mildest-mannered man who ever laughed at the idea that any habit could ever get him. See? I mean, pot, Harry Anslinger, damn near the same thing, right? Here's Pot on the marijuana doesn't kill anybody, right? They're not having any of that. Because Pot has actually documented all the people whose pot use led them to suicide. Yeah, they got a list. Suicides caused by pot. This is from their site. They say, quote, according to a program of Dr. Drew Pinsky back in 2003, there is an extraordinarily high incident of suicide in the first 6 months of marijuana abstinence. Oh, well, it was on a Dr. Drew show 14 years ago. Oh, well then. These youths banish the claim that mental health problems always come before marijuana use. A strong misconception is that mental illness after using pot only affects those with previous mental health issues. The deaths described here include active psychotic reactions at the time of marijuana use, as well as depression from long-term use. Couldn't be that they were depressed or psychotic and then sought out marijuana. No, they deny that. Of course, Anslinger warned us that this was going to happen. Anslinger said, marijuana is an addictive drug which produces in its users insanity, criminality, and death. Look, if there was a high incidence of mental health problems, mental illness, suicide, psychosis, schizophrenia attributed to pot use, if it were as high as 1 out of 4, and according to the statistics, 1 out of 5 people college age are smoking pot monthly. Doesn't that make it like 1 out of 20 college students every month would be going psychotic? You do the math on that? Oh, wait, they might be dabbing. Could be 1 out of 10. Let's go on. Pot also says that sometimes these psycho dopers are going to turn the guns on others. Here's from Pot. What triggers school violence? To seek revenge and kill oneself after a disappointment is not normal. These youth came from the states that had legalized marijuana. Marijuana needs to be added to our discussion of what causes mass violence, along with violence in the media, access to guns, violent video games, etc. Mass shooters James Holmes and Jared Loughner were known to be marijuana users and not moderate in their use. Marijuana averages 13% THC today, opposed to 1 to 3% in the 70s and 80s. Did marijuana feed their psychosis and the psychopathology of Freiberg, Pearson, the Columbine killers, and others? Okay, first, I know some of the folks in my chat room are old enough to have been smoking weed in the 70s and 80s. I never did. I didn't smoke weed till 1992. So can you tell me about this 1 to 3% marijuana you were smoking in the 70s, guys? I saw the Cheech and Chong movies of the 80s. Cheech and Chong were smoking 1 to 3% THC, because if I recall, that's damn near industrial hemp, right? Really, Cheech and Chong in those movies were smoking 1 to 3% THC. Sure. Just sure they were. Yeah. And all that great music of the 70s, all that awesome music of the 70s, the guys smoking weed and writing those were just smoking 1 to 3% THC weed. Yeah. Sure they were. What else they got in here? Well, here's the Anslinger version of that same quote. Anslinger version. How many murders, suicides, robberies, criminal assaults, holdups, burglaries, and deeds of maniacal insanity it causes each year, especially among the young, can only be conjectured. No one knows when he places a marijuana cigarette to his lips whether he will become a joyous reveler in a musical heaven, a mad insensate, a calm philosopher, or a murderer. Yeah, folks. So this is poppot.org. It's hilarious. I encourage everyone to check it out. It is literally the online embodiment of the spirit of Harry J. Anslinger. And also, don't forget to follow Anslinger's Ghost on Twitter. I will be using that account to give Harry Anslinger's perspective on drug reform throughout the day, and whenever I come upon something interesting that Harry J. Anslinger should weigh in on. Also, speaking of Anslinger, when I was in Texas, I filmed a bit as Harry J. Anslinger. So I haven't heard back yet as to whether that's going to be released, but when I do, I will send you all the link. Stay tuned. We'll be back and wrap things up for today and give you a look at tomorrow in less than 2.5 minutes.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
Hey everybody, it's Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
It's time for cannabis facts about teen drug use from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A recent survey by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control indicates that in states that have legalized medical marijuana, the rate of marijuana consumption among high school students has not increased. In fact, in legal states like Colorado, teen use has actually decreased significantly. It's simply no longer a big deal for teenagers in legal states. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
The Marijuana Agenda, like the gay agenda, only with better music.
I'm Russ Belville with the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 2 weeks for Police for Reform with Law Enforcement Action Partnership. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
us pirates, we go on vacation to North Dakota, you know, because they've got a town called Argosville. Arr. What are you smoking there, boy?
It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ.
All right, welcome back. In our last segment, we were talking about some reefer madness out of poppot.org. Folks, there's so much reefer madness, I couldn't fit it in one segment. That's how reefer mad these people are at poppot.org. I wanted to continue with some of the stuff in comparison to their ideological forebear, Harry J. Anslinger. So we last left off where marijuana use leads to psychosis among half the people who dab. It leads young people to commit suicide. And then the psychotic dopers turn the guns on others and become school shooters, right? So that's where we left off. Well, here's the other warning from Pop Pot, is that while marijuana may not kill the parents who smoke it, they in turn will kill their children. I know. Hold on. This is the quote from Pop Pot. Yes, marijuana does cause death. Not necessarily of the pot smoker, but of the tender little people in the home. Use of pot creates victims, including children, who die from neglect or violence when parents, mothers, boyfriends, or caregivers use pot. We have been tracking news of child deaths linked to marijuana since November 2012. The columns show official causes of death related to the caregiver's marijuana use. We found news reports of 80 such deaths in 28 states. Actual numbers could be much higher. Violent neglect includes marijuana DUI, guns, and pit bulls. The last column includes infants who died shortly after birth. Okay, so we all know who these pit bull owners and mothers' boyfriends are, right? As Harry Anslinger warned back in the day, colored students at the University of Minnesota partying with white female students, smoking marijuana and getting their sympathy with stories of racial persecution. Result, pregnancy. There are 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the U.S., and most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz and swing, result from marijuana usage. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others. Now, folks at Pop Pot, they're not having it. The Pop Pot people are very sensitive to being called racists. They're going to trump your playing of the race card. They actually say in their top 10 lies of legalizers page, quote, marijuana was not banned because of racism. Massachusetts banned in 1911, long before Harvey Anslinger worked to ban marijuana around 1930. Anslinger is the pot industry's excuse to accuse those who are opposed to legalization with racism. It is an accusation that doesn't hold up to scrutiny. California banned it in 1913 and New York in 1914. Well, here's the funny thing about California in 1913. According to Dale Geringer out at California Normal, it's that they had a huge influx of marijuana-using Sikh laborers in their turbans and all, who the media mistakenly identified as Hindu, leading a prominent member of the California State Board of Pharmacy named Henry J. Finger to write to Anslinger's predecessor, a guy named Hamilton Wright, the following warning, quote, this is 1913. Within the last year, we in California have been getting a large influx of Hindus, and they have in turn started quite a demand for cannabis indica. They are a very undesirable lot, and the habit is growing in California very fast. The fear is now that they are initiating our whites into this habit. Yeah, no, not racist at all, huh? Happy birthday to Harry J. Anslinger. who I imagine is currently suffering repeated sodomizations with red-hot titanium nails by dreadlock dab demons who are hotboxing his cubicle in the Nixon wing of hell, comforted only by the knowledge that his ideological spawn lives on in parents opposed to pot.
Follow MJ Agenda on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, and SoundCloud. And follow MJ Agenda Show on Twitter. Learn more at mjagenda.com.
That's all the time we got for today. For everyone here at Delta 9 Studios in beautiful legal Potland, Oregon, I'm Radical Russ. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.